Hey guys, I haven't made a video in a couple days, and I've had like a couple of ideas for videos kind of floating in my head that I've wanted to do, but haven't gone around to doing it or whatever yet, I guess. And one of them was so basically, somebody a couple days ago let me know that if you take Titanic, Hydra, and Black Cleaver at the same time, then the Black Cleaver actually applies 2 stacks per auto. So Black Cleaver, the new Black Cleaver, it's like 4% armor shred per stack or something, so up to like 35% or whatever, I don't know. And with the new Black Cleaver, if you get them to max Black Cleaver stacks, 6 stacks or whatever, then, so let's see here, it's 4% per stack and max of 24, right? And it's for 6 seconds, so it's not via passive it's like 3 seconds. It's kind of negligible, but 6 seconds not too bad. And this is really helpful sometimes. Just I don't buy it often, but it can be pretty good some games. Let's say if the enemy team's stacking up a lot of armor and your team's really heavy on AD too, because then you're kind of helping everyone with the armor reduction, not just yourself. Let's say your team's got like one other AD character, then you're not helping too many people out. So anyways, Black Cleaver, not a crazy item in my opinion, but a situational item that can be decent sometimes. So I haven't been buying it too much. There's some other stuff that I find more interesting, but if you've got Black Cleaver and you stack it up fully, they've done this change where now it has this Butcher passive where once it's stacked up fully, enemies become carved, and your abilities and attacks, not just attacks, abilities and attacks, but it doesn't work on dots. I tried that. It doesn't work on DOT abilities like, Sunfire or, Brand passive or whatever. I don't know. Something like that. But they take 5% missing health physical damage as well from abilities and attacks. So that's pretty significant. If you're focusing somebody who's got a lot of health and whatever, and you're trying to kill them, and you finish, stacking up your Black Cleaver because they're taking a long time to fight, then you start really dealing a noticeable amount of damage extra, and that's, I think this even works for allies as well. I'm pretty sure. So, oh wait, I just realized this. I didn't even know this. Damage over time effects deal 40% butcher damage. So even damage over time effects like Darius passive or whatever will still actually help this out. I don't know if this works for teammates too, but if it does, then that's pretty significant in some cases, right? If you manage to stack up the Black Cleaver fully. So stacking up the Black Cleaver fully is something that won't happen in a lot of fights for Vi. Like a fight for Vi could easily just be, even with a more like bruiser or whatever type build, oftentimes you'll just get your Q auto onto somebody and then they'll like flash away from you, or or they'll CC you, or you'll start getting peeled or whatever. Like Leona will stun you, or Thresh will hook you, or whatever. So like oftentimes it's like a Q auto and then an R, and then you're either getting CC'd and they're flashing away here, or you're getting CC'd and they're flashing away after. Maybe you get one more auto onto them or whatever. At this point, if they're a squishy and you've Q auto-E'd and R'd them and gone an auto or two, they're probably dead, unless you're really behind or they're really ahead. And if they're not dead, you're probably getting CC'd in every direction. If they're a tanky target, you might not be getting CC'd in every direction, unless maybe you're getting CC'd by them. If you're like trying to fight Maokai or something, he's probably whacking you around and stuff, and you're probably wasting your time hitting him anyways. So I don't find this type of thing to be like that amazing on Vi because of that, and that this type of playstyle of like shredding people with Vi or whatever isn't that useful. Like you might see me with Divine Sunder and Ravenous Hydra and that type of stuff, Starax Gage and whatever recently, but that's honestly because like that type of build just makes you deal so much damage despite being so hard to kill and like sustaining so well in fights. It's kind of like there's it feels like there isn't really a downside. I'm doing insane damage, almost as much as like a full damage build, just maybe a little bit less, but I'm also really, really hard to kill and everything too. And like, so that's why it feels like a really strong build. But I digress. I haven't been playing Black Cleaver too much, but I was told that my main thing that I want to talk about right now is that if you buy a Titanic Hydra, then you'll see that okay, wait, I'll show you without the Titanic Hydra. Look in the top left corner, and you'll see when I'm hitting this, there's 1 Black Cleaver stack, 2 Black Cleaver stacks, 3 Black Cleaver stacks, and then Electrocute actually procs another one as well. For some of you guys might not know that. I wasn't even 100% sure if it did that or not earlier, but I saw that. But if you buy a Titanic Hydra, and Titanic Hydra, really expensive of an item, honestly. I've seen nobody buy this on any character since the preseason 11. Really, even the old Titanic Hydra wasn't really that popular. I rarely saw it, but this one seems even worse. It's 3.3k for, 500 health and 30 attack damage. It makes you convert 1% of your health into AD, which is not crazy. And there's the cleave thing, which deals some physical damage on hit, by the way, on hit. It's not like there's the cone as well, but the extra damage that you deal to the target that you're hitting is actually in the form of an on hit damage, just something to note. And then there's the cone as well, the shockwave, whatever, behind the target you'll see here, that deals actually pretty decent damage. So for this item to be good, you have to have built a decent amount of health, and you have to, because all these scale off of your health. You see the cleave damage is killing off your health, the on hit damage is killing off your health, and you have to make use of the cleave as well. Like if you're making use of the cleave in whatever type of fight you're having, and you've built a good chunk of health or whatever, then this is an okay item. But honestly, like, that's too conditional. You know what I mean? Like, how often is it that you've got, this situation where you're hitting somebody and there's other people buying them? Sometimes, but not that often. And honestly, like, even for that type of situation, Ravenous Hydra is really strong right now. Like, I don't know if some of you guys haven't played around with Ravenous Hydra right now, but it feels pretty good. Like, check this out, you use E on Ravenous Hydra, the circles splash into everything and then splash into everything again. It's pretty good, Unfortunately, the circles don't apply stacks of Black Cleaver. I mean, only one at most, I should say. But if you've got like a creep wave or a jungle camp or a fight where a lot of people are close to each other, like everything starts hitting everything else, It's a lot more, because like, Vi is like a whole, you can't see it, but the indicator, it's like this big. It's a big cone, and anything that gets hit in that splashes Ravenous Hydra onto everything. And the stats on here are really solid, 65 AD, 20 ability haste, 15% Omnivamp. The Omnivamp is pretty nice. So this is definitely a respectable item, I think, compared to Titanic Hydra. The cleave thing, too situational. But, despite everything I've just said, it's worth noting that, if you have a Titanic Hydra in your inventory and you auto-attack something, it does 2 Black Cleaver stacks. So then it becomes only 3 attacks. 3 attacks, and you've already stacked up the Black Cleaver fully, and then you're going to be dealing pretty significant amount of extra damage with the shred if they're at all tanky or whatever. So although I knew Titanic Hydra is not really that great of an item, and Black Cleaver, even Black Cleaver itself, not that great of an item unless they're building a lot of armor or you've got a lot of AD or some combination of those things or whatever. Even despite those 2 things, I did try it out because I wanted to see, like, oh, is this maybe actually good somehow? Like, could this be good? And I tried it with Trinity mostly because I find, like, if I'm going to be trying to, like, whale people down with, like, the Shred or whatever with Titanic Hydra and Black Cleaver or something like that, then I probably want the Trinity Force. It's got the attack speed and the move speed when I auto stuff and everything. It feels like there's a synergy that, Trinity Black Cleaver, you actually can attack quickly and build up those Black Cleaver stacks and then start shredding people and stuff, like with the Titanic and the Black Cleaver. With Divine Thunder is a bit more of like you're attacking much slower and you're moving slower too because you don't have the tree movement speed and everything. But you're tankier as well. You 200 more health, 10 more ability haste, so you can use your abilities a bit more, 5 more AD. So and if your target's at all even slightly tanky, you're dealing noticeably more damage than the Trinity Force. If they're not too tanky, then the Trinity Force might deal about as much or maybe slightly more. But the Divine Thunder is more like you're kind of like like a powerhouse, but a bit sluggish. With Trinity, you're still pretty strong and you're a bit more agile. That's kind of the difference between the two. And I find Divine Thunder is stronger and more like reliable and consistent and just feels like more like inherently powerful or whatever. But Trinity is definitely not too bad. It's definitely decent and it's got some perks to it. But anyways, with this build, I was trying it with Trinity Force, and like the problem I've been having is basically like, so you want to rush Trinity Force, right? Like rushing Black Cleaver, really not that good because like you get this right away. People barely even have armor built. Even the people who are planning to stack armor, let's say, they don't even have much armor built. They've got like a cloth armor and a plated steel caps, or maybe they've got like they've got like, you know, one Seeker's Arm Guard or whatever. You know, like they don't have almost any armor built yet. They're even their inherent armor from their character is only like 60 or whatever. So you're getting really quite little value out of this Black Cleaver. And then the Trinity Force, or sorry, the Titanic Hydra as well. The Colossus health scaling and the on-hit damage scaling and the cleave damage scaling off of health or whatever. You barely have any health built because all you've got is a Black Cleaver. And plus you're not getting, you know, the mythic item and whatever. Like mythic items, rushing mythic items has been something that most characters do, because the mythic items are all pretty strong and have like, you know, these nice perks to them and everything that makes them worth getting quickly if you can. So it's like, first of all, you're rushing Trinity Force. That's a really expensive item, 3,333 gold already, and then you're buying probably boots, maybe a Doran's if you decide to buy that on your back. I've been buying Doran's on early back, like probably like 75% of my games. It's not like a necessary item, but it's like if you've got room in your inventory because the jungle item just disappears after you smite 5 times, then this Doran's Blade's a pretty respectable item. For 450 gold, you get 80 health, 880, and 2.5% on event. That's pretty solid. Like, it's a really solid item, you know. The only limiting, like the only thing that would make Doran's Blade not good is that you don't really have room in your inventory for it. But, you know, since the jungle item is just going to disappear anyways, you do have room in your inventory for it. So a solid pickup, I would say. Like, if it's going to be between a longsword, 2 longswords and a control word, or, you know, a Doran's Blade, a longsword, and a control word, like, the choice is pretty obvious, right? Like, if you end up in a fight, would you rather have a longsword or a Doran's Blade, right? So it's definitely something that you should have in mind, I think, if you want to be efficient with your early game builds, is that you can pick up a Doran's Blade. Don't buy 2 though, because some of you guys might not know, passives don't stack on anything anymore. Like, no passives stack. That's just a rule across the board. Before it was like some stuff didn't stack and some stuff did for some reason, and it was a little weird. So now it's just like, okay, the rule is no passives stack. That's just supposed to be the rule now. So if you buy two Doran's Blades, your second Doran's Blade is not giving you any Omni Vamp. You're just getting the 80 and the health. So yeah, and just keep that in mind. But like, okay, so what I'm saying though, what my point is like, when you've rushed Trinity Force and then you get Black Cleaver, even that's a little early for your Black Cleaver, but you rush Black Cleaver anyway, second item. The enemy team's got a little bit of armor built at that point because you're reaching around mid-game. And then you're buying Titanic Hydra, a 3,300 gold item. I mean, honestly, by the time I have, like, let's say maybe it's a Swifties, maybe it's a plated steel caps, maybe it's treads, I don't know, depends on the game. Honestly, by the time I've picked up this inventory in a game, the game is like 35 minutes in, you know? That's not even that many games. Most games have ended already, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm trying to build this inventory, like, you know, over and over and over to try to test it out and see if it's good and whatever. And you know, you can see my match history. I did really try to make this work for whatever reason, even on my main account in these, like, some of these like challenger games and grandmaster games and stuff with, like, you know, really good players and stuff. And I was kind of fucking around a bit, but, like, you know, and I had some wins, but it's like, honestly, the games where I did manage to complete the Titanic Hydra, and I tried on Nocturne too, just because I was fucking around Nocturne. And honestly, these 2 Nocturne games that I lost, I was winning ridiculously hard, and I probably would have won if I hadn't built this stuff, because I don't really think it was that great on him. It was okay, but yeah, just, you know, like, my point is basically, like, by the time I was finishing the Titanic Hydra, the game had already been decided, and it was already basically over. Like, I maybe bought the Titanic Hydra, like, as I was doing my last push, or I bought it, like, while the enemy team was ending the game, or I bought it, like, you know, as the victory screen was happening, and I was just like, oh, I died in, like, the last push if my team's ending or whatever, I guess I'll buy a Titanic Hydra, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't even matter at that point. So, and you might be saying to yourself, okay, well, if you really want to try this build, then and you want to have it finished before the game is so far in that you know, it's already over, then how about skipping the Training Force completely and just having, you know, just Black Cleaver Titanic right away, you know what I mean? And I tried that like 2 or 3 games, and it felt horrible, just horrible. This and just like the games where I was building Trinity, Black Cleaver, Titanic, like, around the time I was buying a Titanic, it literally felt like I was just throwing my gold away. Like, I wasn't buying something that was doing anything for me. And I was like, you know, when you're like building up items and you're getting stronger, and you're getting access to more tools that let you do things like, oh, you got GA now, or now you got Sterax now, or now you finished your eclipse or whatever, like a spike in damage and or whatever things you can do, tools that you have access to. When the whole time I was buying this Titanic Hydra, it felt like I was just throwing my gold away. And when I finished it, I didn't feel any better. Like I was stacking a Black Cleaver maybe a little bit faster, but like, you know, I noticed that effect like once. You know what I mean? In all these games, I noticed the Titanic Hydra stacking whatever thing that I built this like maybe 2, maybe 3 times. You know what I mean? Like it never mattered. I bought this, the game was already over. I bought it, the game was already over. Like, you know what I mean? So it just really like, and I, you know, so many games where I couldn't even get to the point where I was buying it. I had already won or I had already lost. So, but even when I did buy it, it didn't feel good. It didn't feel like I was doing that amazing of damage. I didn't have the survivability of the Sterax or the utility and survivability with the GA or you know, the extra damage from Cerelia's Grudge or Ravenous Hydra, which honestly would have given me more survivability and damage than Titanic probably, even with the Black Cleaver synergy thing, like which probably wasn't even an efficient purchase because my team wasn't that heavy on AD or whatever that game maybe even. So like I really wanted to do a video for you guys and release a video like, yo, check out Titanic and Black Cleaver, it's so good. Like new OP build secret buggy interaction where 2 stacks of Black Cleaver apply and everything. Like, dude, this is so good, you know. But like I can't, you know, I can't. I wanted to make one of these games be a video, but I can't because it did nothing. It wasn't worthwhile. I felt like I was wasting my gold and it felt like, you know, it just wasn't efficient at all for me. So in the end, I'm just making this video just like basically just a discussion video. Like I'm just in a practice tool, like talking about it, you know, instead, because like I just feel like that's way more honest. And yeah, like Black Cleaver I think is okay situationally. Black Cleaver Titanic, there is the synergy of it applying 2 stacks, but Titanic is not a strong item. It's just not impressive at all. If maybe they nerf Ravenous Hydra, then I could see Titanic popping up a little bit, and maybe there's some characters other than Vi, like maybe this build is a bit more useful on like some situation with Renekton or some situation with Riven or Set or Jarvan or something like that, Rek'Sai, I don't know. But even all those characters, I feel like I'd be more likely to see something else, like maybe Bork or maybe a Black Cleaver with something else, like just a Trinity Black Cleaver. I mean, games are almost like, for me, I don't know about you guys, but games feel like they're so decided in the first, you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, so much of the time, you know what I mean? Like my game isn't even being decided by whether or not I finished Trinity Force. The game's decided when I've got like Hearthbound Axe and Boots in my inventory, you know what I mean? Like this is, my inventory is just this, and the game's already been decided. Like this is what my inventory looks like, and the game's just been, the outcome of the game is like 90% determined already, you know what I mean? So like this, you know, idea of like building all these like 11,000 golden items or whatever to win the game is just not actually, it's just a fantasy. It doesn't exist in the real world, in my experience. It does a little bit, but just not very much. At least not for me. At least not for like a jungler who's you know, trying to get spikes and, you know, be really like relevant and powerful and stuff and impact the game. So that was my experience with that, and that's, you know, I just wanted to relay that to you guys in the form of this video, and I thought you guys might find that interesting, you know, to really get my just raw thought process, not just a game of me playing with it and wow, this looks cool or whatever, because that's fun and everything, but just really like, you know, actually what I think about it, and not even in a game, you know, because I did try it, you know, I can't say I didn't try it, and it's not like I didn't have any good games, but don't get me wrong, but like I would have had just as good of a game or better in pretty much almost any of these. Like look at the team I'm facing. It's not even useful. It's maybe useful against Mundo a little bit, but that didn't matter, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, Titanic, I think I would basically never buy Titanic. I don't think it's really that great. I think it would need to get a little buff. If this item gets a little buff, or this item gets a little buff, or whatever, this I think needs maybe a little bit more than a little buff. Like maybe it should be 1.5% or 2% of 8 like health or something for this to really be a solid item, or maybe a little bit less on the cleave identity of this item, because the cleave is so conditional. You know what I mean? If you are in a situation again, like if you're hitting everyone in a cleave, then it's great, but That's not that common. But then I could see this kind of popping up as something that's actually worthwhile. But as things are right now, Black Cleaver, not too crazy. Situational can be worth considering sometimes for sure, but I wouldn't buy it more than once every maybe 5 to 10 games at most, kind of thing. Like, you know, heavy AD team, armor being built on everyone on the enemy team kind of thing. Titanic, I think I would basically never buy it. And so yeah, uh, that was an interesting experience, and this is kind of the resulting outcome of that. So yeah, hopefully this video helps you guys out, gives you some insight on my thought process on this and my experience and everything with this. And yeah, so yeah, thanks for watching, guys.